Hey, everybody, what's happening? This is the work. You're all around talk about anything and everything podcast. And we are here on this great Monday evening here. And as you know, we are continuing to cover the 2022 midterm elections that's coming up on the primaries is coming up on May 24th. So you roughly got about 14 days, 15 days left decide who you're going to vote for. So to continue our coverage, we are we're interviewing various candidates that are running for office here in the state of Alabama. And with us today, we have Antwon Womack. He is running for Alabama State House of Representatives, District 55, double nickel. And welcome, Mr. Womack. Appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
Start off, tell everyone who you are and why you're running.
Yeah. My voice silence is kind of acting up. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm driving at this moment, so if I don't look into the camera, everyone, I glance. I'm Antwon Womack, candidate for State Representative District 55. I'm born and raised here in Birmingham, attended schools here, have been politically involved in politics here and in Jefferson County now for the past 18 years. The reason why I decided to enter into this race to be able to represent District 55 is because I believe that the most important thing to the role of a representative is to advocate and represent. And currently right now, that's not happening. People don't understand the process of how laws are created and how those laws affect local and county government. And so I believe that being able to represent the people of District 55, but most importantly, get them to the table to understand how we work together and how this process works. Just for the record, Keith, I think that the listeners should know this is my second attempt at this seat. I ran 4 years ago for the seat, and I was able to garnish 22% of the box. That was 1,227 votes. And so I am electable. And so that's why I'm in this race, to be able to give the people of District 55 a voice, but they know who their representative is and Montgomery advocating for them.
So we're going to be covering a lot of issues here. But I know one of the issues you strongly advocate for is education. So let's start with education. So what is your did you mention anything about your platform? So what are some of the issues that you are campaigning or that you're running for?
Yeah, so there are three things because I try to be very precise, but I try to keep it simple for people. There are three things that I do believe that are very important. That I do believe that we have an opportunity to start the conversation on. Number one is education. The second one is public health. And the third one will be economic development. You just mentioned, Keith, about education. Most people who know me or have kept up with me know my story. And they know why I am so passionate as it pertains to public education. They know why. But one thing I will say is that I also believe that talking about educational needs don't get the right attention it's supposed to. Because anytime, and you know this, Keith, anytime we bring up education, the first thing come up, failing schools, low income areas. But there's never a conversation about the great things that are going on within our school system. There's never a conversation about the great things that are offered to our children that they are taking advantage of. And so I do believe that with the right tools, with the right voice, that we have the opportunity to continue to move the academic needle, but to also offer other things in the state of Alabama that we're currently not offering. Alabama is number 48 in the nation for education. Number 48 in the nation for education. For the first time in Alabama history, we have passed a $1.8 billion education trust fund. I think voters and listeners need to know that. So for the first time, they're going to be able to give teachers raises. They're not only are they going to give them raises, but they're going to give them raises according to the years of teaching experience that they have. Also, they're going to give them raises according to their educational background, their level of collegiate training. So this is huge. Is that enough? No, it's still not enough. And so one thing that I do believe that has to happen is that in the same manner that we encourage our children, we encourage our educators to push our scholars to go to college and to push our scholars to apply for scholarships to 4 universities. Keith, another thing that we need to do is that, guess what? We need to push our young people to go and apply for vocational training. You know, everybody's not going to college. And I don't think that it's talked about as to why it is that a lot of our children don't do well at 4-year colleges, but they have no other options. And so if elected or given an opportunity to serve, I do plan to work with the County Board of Education, with the State Board of Education, and our 2-year college system to come up with ways on how our children can apply for scholarships to go to vocational training schools. We have plenty of them here in Alabama. And so just briefly on education, you know, that's just something that I think is very important.
I understand too that you are not really in tune with charter schools as well. We had a couple of discussions in depth talking about charter schools, and we had Richard Franklin on here at one time. We had Terry Michaels here. We had Alice Speak on here at one time, and they delivered some great information about charter schools. I know that has been under your radar too as well.
Yeah.
Been on several podcasts where you have been talking about that. So for the record, and for listeners and viewers that are going to be viewing this, what is your stand on charter schools?
Yeah, so I am 100% not in favor of them. I do believe that charter schools were created here in the state of Alabama to be able to pour dollars away from public education, but I also believe that charter schools was created as a for-profit entity to allow big businesses and special interest groups to make money off our children. I think there's a couple of things, and I'm sure Richard and a couple of others and Tara, Mike, and a couple others have talked about this. People need to understand that charter schools here in Alabama is nothing but a way for those who are against public education to give this false dream, this false hope that our children will receive a better education and will receive more opportunities out of the charter school when most people do not know that these charter schools are not regulated, nor are they governed by the Alabama Department of Education. That's right. So if you're sending your child to these charter schools, their curriculum has to be approved by the Department of Education, but that's it. They have what they call the Alabama Charter School Commission, which is an entity, a 12-board commission that have been created by the governor and the Speaker of the House to regulate these charter schools. Not only that, I think that the public also need to know about these charter schools, Keith, is that the teachers are not required to have a teacher certification. They are not required to have a teacher certification. Most of these charter schools, from what I've researched, actually have certified teachers, but most of them are not certified. I think another thing that needs to be pointed out is that their administrators are only required, according to the law, to only have 1 year teacher experience to be able to administer and be a administrator over a charter school. But these are your children that are going here. Another thing that I think that needs to be pointed out is the fact that let's say that these schools decide at the end of its first year that it did not meet its goals, that it did not academically meet the criteria that it had set out before the public. They decide that they want to close down. Guess what? They can close down and keep that year's funding and next year's funding. So that basically means, Keith, that those children are going back to the public schools with no dollars. It also means we got to figure out how it is that, guess what, that we also are going to feed these children and how we're going to be able to keep teacher units. Because that's how teachers are able to keep their position is based off per student ratio and how many dollars are getting per child towards teacher. So no, there are many factors as to why, and the record shows, and it's in the public, that I have fought against these entities. Not only have I fought against these entities, but I've also stood up for public education in the public and in private. And so, yes, I am a pro public education candidate.
Now, in District 55, of course, there's the Titusville community is a part of District 55, and there's a split. There's a split with the new lines that's being drawn. Only North Titusville is now part of District 55, and so
That's correct.
You got South Titusville and Woodland Park. The reason why I bring up charter schools is because I don't know if you heard of Freedom Prep that's trying to come in that area, and we're having to,
they're out of Tennessee. They're out of Tennessee. Yes.
And we're having a battle, with them as well. So and they're trying to come in the Titusville community, and we're having a battle with them. And we basically told them, no, this is not what our community needs, and they're pushing this down our throat. And we have leaders that in the city of Birmingham that are standing to benefit from this, to where the community says no, and they plan on overriding the will of the people. And so I'm having a difficult time wrap this around me, because we elect people that says that, yeah, I'm going to fight for your best interest, and I'm going to fight for the will of the people. But when they get down to Montgomery, it's a whole nother, everything goes south. So what would you say to the voters? That's what you're going to get. And I'm probably sure you probably already got that already, when you are on the campaign trail. So what would you say to the voters of District 55 as why you believe, or that that, hey, when I go to Montgomery, not only I'm going to fight for you, but the will of the people are going to be embedded in my heart, and I'm going to fight for you to the end. So what do you have to say to the voters of 5th District 55 on that one?
Yeah. So we all know, Keith, that it has been a standing practice, and it has definitely been a problem within the African American community of most of our elected officials not upholding their commitment to the public, to be transparent and to serve, but to also be a man or a woman of their word. I do believe, Keith, that I have shown the people of the city that I've always stood for what I believe, even if one thing that I will say is that so I have not yet been elected and I look forward to it. One thing that can be sure is that I'm going to make sure that the district 55 are represented. I'm going to make sure that in that case that I'm set accountable if that does not happen. I do believe that the people should understand the process. I also believe that they should be able to come down and know what it is that their representative is supporting. Now, let me say this for a record. There may be some things that I may support and may vote that the public itself may not agree with. And I think it's very important to say this. The people, and you are a voter just like I am, we send our elected officials to make the best decision based off facts and knowledge. I have found out, I've been guilty of it, that sometimes we don't get all the facts. And we jump on our elected officials and, we make all type of accusations against them when they're actually on the right side. And so from preventing that to happen, one thing that I do plan to do to keep that communication piece between me and the residents of District 55 is making sure that twice out of those 6 months that we are in the legislature, that I have a town hall breaking down what has already happened, breaking down what's on the calendar to be voted on, and I also allowing them to give me input on what their thoughts is about the bills. I think that is one way of showing the people that you're not down there just to be down there, but you're down there and you're doing your best in a minority. I think that, I need that to be known. When I'm elected to the state house, I'll be a part of the minority, which basically means that, hey, I'm going to have to walk across the party lines to get some support. Does that mean that I deny who I am as a Democrat? No. It basically means that it shows that I have the ability to work with others, even if we have ideological differences or political differences. But it also shows my people, it also shows the voters of District 55 that I am willing to do whatever it takes to make sure we get what we need, but most importantly, staying true to myself. And I think that I've shown that over the years, Keith, is that guess what? I'm not afraid to stand alone. And most important, I'm not afraid to get at people when they are out of order on things. So yes, sir.
Yeah, you sound just like me. I have no problem. I'm with you when you right, and when you're wrong, guess what? I'm gonna call you out. That's just how I am. And we have to be unapologetically transparent and accountable. And we need to have the ability to hold other people accountable. And I know, I've been in Montgomery long enough to know that there are a lot of members of the state legislature that are friends and they're buddy. And my golden rule is that you don't want to be too friendly with politicians because it's difficult to hold them accountable. I'm not saying that you shouldn't work with them, but I'm not saying don't be too friendly with them to where you cannot hold them accountable. And that's why I seen when I was in Montgomery, you had too many people, they're friends and buddies, and they don't want to get their fellow colleagues in trouble for something they have done. That's not why people are elected to the state legislature. Leave that friendly stuff at the door. People that are elected are there to serve the interests of the people, not stuff in your pocket, not see what you can get out of this position, and not go down there and making friends to the point that you get into something that you can't get out of. So that's just
Right.
my personal philosophy, on that. I'm really big on that. And also too, Antwon, I do know I've been following you for a couple of years, and I know that you have a substantial knowledge of what's going on in Montgomery, and you have been pretty much abreast of what's going on in Montgomery. You don't find too many candidates that do that have that type of advocacy when it comes to what's
Yeah,
going on in Montgomery. So, and
yeah,
again, we're not endorsing anyone, but give we do like to give props and credit where credit is due. And and that's just coming from me personally. It has nothing to do with this podcast or the platform itself, but this is just coming from me personally. That
right.
I know that you have extensive knowledge of what's going on in Montgomery, and that's an advantage when you have a candidate that's running that already know what the position entails and have been following the people that in an office in which they are elected. That's a plus.
It is. And let me say this, Keith, because I would like to continue this, but in about 10 minutes I have another engagement. So I want to at least touch on two more points for the viewers before I have to, before I have to leave. One thing I will say, Keith, is that you know I don't have nothing to lose from this. I have nothing to lose from this. One thing I can say that I do have to gain is I have the opportunity to gain the ability of being able to help my people, and not only helping my people, but being able to engage them in how we strategically fight up against this system. And I think that is what's not happening right now in Montgomery. And it's not happening here in Jefferson County. We do not have legislators that are coming back and breaking these bills down to show the people of Jefferson County, people of District 55, this is what they're trying to do. This is why it's important that your county elected officials and your municipal elected officials work together. So when those bills do come up, I and the other delegation have support. And then those elected officials are able to tell you guys and the public to get on buses and come down and advocate. Because we all know that, guess what, that there is power in numbers, but it's also power in educated and strategic numbers. And I do believe that that's something that I have the capability of being able to do in my ability to build relationships. Something else I want to touch on right quick, Keith, is public health. We all know that this pandemic showed us that our infrastructure system in the state of Alabama was not where it should have been. Not only was it not where it was not supposed to have been where it was supposed to be, but it also found out that our healthcare providers were not as knowledgeable as they thought they were. So one thing that I do believe that has to happen moving forward is that we have to look at what we could have done better. Now, let me stop there and say that there's nothing that no healthcare professional could have done about this pandemic. But when it comes down to preparedness and readiness, when it comes down to the response time, and when it comes down to getting information out to the community, we could have done a whole lot better. So one thing that I do believe that has to happen, and one thing that I do believe that we can do, is that when I'm elected, I do plan to sit down with the county health officer and the state health officer, along with members of the Alabama Hospital Board, Hospital Association, and Nursing Home Association, to come up with legislation that will make sure that if a pandemic of this nature, Keith, was to happen again, that we're ready. And by being ready, that means that having a plan of action as it relates to readiness, resources, and when it comes down to making sure that people in the state of Alabama know what's available to them. And the way that I hear a lot of people say, well, how will we pay for that? We'll pay for it through making sure that, guess what, that the current monies that we're holding back from expanding Medicare that the state can use, and opera funds, which is the American Rescue Plan funds, use those towards setting up a certain account to where if a pandemic of this nature was to happen again, Alabama is ready. Not only will they be not ready, but they're able to issue resources to counties immediately to start making sure that people okay. The third thing, and I'm going to close here, the third thing is economic development. We all know that everybody have their own ideology and their own thoughts as it relates to economic. If you do not address housing. And so I do believe that what we have to do is that we have to look at what options are out there that gives our residents the opportunity to become home ownership. Not only that, I also believe that we have to get with our Chamber of Commerce to start talking about how it is that we can attract investors into our areas to build single family homes so we can draw those businesses back in. And so I believe that with strong leadership, I believe with listening, but also going and asking people to support. And guess what? We have an opportunity to be able to do some things. I will say, Keith, that I make nobody no promises. But one thing that you can rest assured is that I am going to work hard. I am going to make sure that District 55 is heard. I am going to make sure that I hold my city councilors and my mayors accountable that are in District 55 are working with me while yet producing information to the public on how they can be a part of this process. And so I do believe that in this race, and I want to say this to the people, what sets Antwon Womack apart from everybody else that's running? One thing that sets me apart from everyone else is the fact that I have been able to build relationships that I can be able to utilize in Montgomery. And that is very important. And you, Keith, you made it, you are absolutely correct. It is great to be a candidate, not an incumbent, that already have the knowledge of an incumbent. And the good part about it is that I already here in the county know who the playmakers are. Only thing I'm asking the people of Jefferson County and the people of District 55 to do is to give me an opportunity. I believe I have proven myself. I believe that I have found myself to be admirable, and I have found myself to be consistent. And I do believe that you will not go wrong with electing me to the Alabama House of Representatives for District 55 on May 24th.
Okay, real quick, what do you think about the American Rescue Care Act money being used towards prisons? Because they're already talking about taking 400 million out of that and then another 135 million out of the general fund. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's another way of showing that our state government is unaccountable. It also shows that guess what, that their finger is not on the pulse of the people. We all know who those prisons are going to be for, and we also know who getting paid for those prisons. So I think quickly the people need to know, Keith, is that the state of Alabama would not be running these prisons. These are private prisons that their tax dollars are going to be used to build. And not only will those be our tax dollars, but they also are planning, once again, like you said, to go into the general fund to build these prisons. That money could be used towards expanding Medicare, putting money in our rural areas of Alabama to where they can expand healthcare opportunities. That money can continue to go to municipalities to continue to sustain the quality of life for people. But instead, this governor rather build mega prisons, which the people that do build the prisons, I guarantee you have some form of giving her big dollars towards her campaign. And so, no, I think that that's not the move we should take. I believe that if you give opportunity, and I also believe that if you invest in ways of giving people opportunity, we won't need the prisons. If we invest in mental health, we won't need the prisons because everybody that's in prison is not a criminal. Some of them have mental health challenges. And so we have to invest in those areas. And I believe that if we would have took that $400 million and holistically invest in each one of those areas, we'll see the decrease of individuals that should not be in prison.
Okay, I got 2 more questions and I'm gonna let you go. The first one is, do you support the elimination of the gas tax?
Yes, I do. Yeah, it should have never happened. And the reason why it should have never happened is because the governor lied. The governor lied to the people of Alabama and said that, guess what, that the money was going to be used towards roads and infrastructure. Guess what? Jefferson County barely got any money from that. Mobile, Huntsville got the buck of that money. And so what we're doing is that we're paying a tax, which will increase over time, to pay for pet projects and other areas that has nothing to do with Jefferson County. So yes, I do support eliminating that gas tax and easing the back of taxpayers.
Okay, do you support the elimination of the grocery tax?
Yes, I do. Alabama is probably the only state in the South that still put taxes on groceries. People need to know why they keep that tax. That is the largest sales tax in the state of Alabama. Alabama is the only state that has the lowest property tax in the country. So a lot of people rather see this sales tax rather than paying more on property taxes. And not only that, I believe that it does not matter your social economic, does not matter how much you make. That 10%, which is $10 on every $100, that hurts. And so I believe that money can be used towards something else and give family a sense of relief. But you got to have people that are willing to have those tough conversations.
And last but not least, how can people find you?
Yeah. So currently, right now, you can find me on Facebook under Antwon for District 55. Currently, right now, that's the only social media we do have. If individuals want to, find ways these last 2 weeks to help, you can contact me at 205-830-2937. That's 205-830-2937. And I will be glad to have your help.
Okay, I wish we have a little bit more time, but I understand you, just got back from Little Rock, Arkansas. You're back on the campaign trail. And I understand that you're busy and everything, but I really appreciate you coming on here to.
And if you could, Keith, not to cut you off, if we can, before election day, come back and do some more talking, I'm open to it.
Yeah, we definitely need to do a part 2 because there's some other questions, that I have that we didn't get into. You touch on some of your platform, but I know that you would like to go into full depth with that, and also we would like for you to share your story as relating to education. So we definitely gonna have you here for a part 2.
Because I think people would appreciate it.
I think people need to know that, and because when it comes to our education system, we know we got problems, but these problems can be fixed. But again, like you said, we have to have those tough conversations. Right now, we're not having those tough conversations. So we're going to do a part 2, and then we can expound on that and anything else that you'd like to share. So again, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we're going to end it for now. So again, this is Antwon Womack. He is running for Alabama State House of Representatives, District 55. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.